Let's take a journey to the country of India. So, what do we know about India? At 1.15 million square miles, the Republic of India is home to more than 1.3 billion people. Over 22 languages are spoken in the country. However, Hindi and English are the official spoken languages.
India's GDP is ranked 143rd in the world. India is developing into an open market economy. Economic liberalization measures, industrial deregulation, privatization of state owned enterprises, and reduced controls on foreign trade and investment began in the 1990s and has remained accelerating the country's growth as shown in the graph. The US is the largest and most technologically powerful economy in the world, shown in 2015. The economy is market oriented, where private individuals and business firms make most of the decisions. The federal and state governments buy needed goods and services predominantly in the private sector. The main technological advances are in computers, medicine, aerospace, and military equipment. India has capitalized on its large educated English speaking population to become a major exporter of IT services, business outsourcing services, and software workers. In 2010, as you can see in the graph, India's growth slowed due to a cut in government spending and a decline in investment. The United States' growth has declined between 2000 and 2010, largely due to the loss of manufacturing jobs. India's GDP per capita has been slowly increasing, as shown in the graph. But due to the large population, India's GDP per capita is 7 times slower than the world's average. India is the world's fourth largest economy. However, its per capita income is low due to overpopulation, compared to the US as shown in the graph. As you can see in the graph, India's currency is significantly weaker than the United States, with 64 Indian rupees equaling 1 US dollar, due to India's large trade deficit, low growth, and high inflation rates. The illustration highlights the devaluation of the rupee. The current cost of gold lies at 78,000 rupees per 1 ounce of gold in India, while it only costs 1,200 US dollars for the same amount.
In regards to inflation rate, as you can see from the graphs, India's inflation rate has fluctuated over the last decade, while the United States has gone on a steady decline. The most drastic drops in inflation for India was back between the years 2000 and between 2010 through 2015. Unemployment rate in India is higher than the United States due to overpopulation. The unemployment rate has begun to decline because the government took initiative to take control of the population growth by educating the population to use contraceptives. The United States unemployment rate rose from 2008 through 2010 due to the recession caused by the housing bubble burst. Unemployment is also caused with people switching jobs, leaving one to find another. The government improves employment rates by stepping in and creating jobs. India's economic freedom currently is ranked on free, yet they have been steadily progressing as shown in the graph, and soon to reach and surpass the world's average in the upcoming years. The United States is ranked mostly free, however, it has been declining since 2005 and continuing to decline due to the less labor freedom, business freedom, and fiscal freedom. India's financial inflows has been steadily increasing largely due to the services sector and software and hardware sectors. The United States inflows declined from 2008 through 2009 due to the housing bubble burst. Imports in India ranks 13 largest in the world. During the last 5 years, India's imports have increased 11% annually. The most recent imports are crude petroleum, followed by gold and petroleum gas. The United States' top imports are crude petroleum, cars, and computers. The U.S. is the second largest export economy in the world. The top export destinations of the U.S. are Canada, Mexico, China, and Germany. The top exports are refined petroleum, cars, planes, vehicle parts, and packaged medication. India is the 18th largest export economy in the world. The top export destinations of India are the United Arab Emirates, China, Saudi Arabia, and the United Kingdom. The top exports of India are refined petroleum, packaged medications, jewelry, rice, and cars. As you see in the Human Development Index graph, you can see that India's HDI has grown steadily. Life expectancies have risen as well as people's level of education. This is all leading to India's becoming competitive in the global marketplace. Something to notice in comparison to the United States is that while India still has lower HDI, they have been improving at a faster rate than the US within the past decade. India's economic freedom currently is ranked unfree, yet they have been steadily progressing as shown in the graph and soon to reach and surpass the world's average in the upcoming years. The United States is ranked mostly free. However, it has been declining since 2005 and continuing to decline due to less labor freedom, business freedom, and fiscal freedom.
Before the late 90s, the information technology sector in India was largely in its early stages. However, coupled with an educated but low-cost workforce, foreign companies were able to start companies based in high-tech activities. This technological know-how spread to local firms who in turn grew as a result of expanded markets both in India as well as the rest of the world. All of this growth and international development arose as a consequence of globalization. So, what is globalization? Well, globalization is the process by which regional economies, societies, and cultures have become integrated through a global network of political ideas through communication, transportation, and trade. The term is closely associated with the term economic globalization, the integration of national economies into the international economy through trade, foreign direct investment, capital flows, migration, the spread of technology, and military presence. For thousands of years, advancement in India has been restricted by its caste system, which is enshrined in the country's dominant Hindu religion. The caste system is among the world's oldest form of surviving social stratification. The system divides Hindus into hierarchical groups based on their karma, which means work, and dharma, which means duty. The five classes are as follows: the Brahmins, who are the priests and teachers, the Kshatriyas, who are the warriors and rulers, the Vaishyas, who are the farmers, traders, and merchants, the Shudras, who are the laborers, and finally the Dalits, the outcasts comprised of street sweepers and latrine cleaners. The upper and lower class have always lived in segregated colonies. The water wells were not shared. Brahmins would not accept food or drink from the Shudras, and one could marry only within one's caste. The caste system has had an effect on social, political, and economical matters, but India's rapid economic expansion and its booming high-tech sector are beginning to chip away at the historical system that reserved well-paying jobs for upper castes. While outsourcing and globalization get a lot of criticism for imposing American culture and values on developing countries and destroying local cultures and traditions, this is an example of one of the many positive sides of globalization. It's changing India's thousand-year-old caste system for the better. India is known as the land of philosophy and spirituality. The country is the birthplace of religions that still exist today. As shown in the table, Hinduism, which is said to have developed about 5,000 years ago, is the most dominant religion in the country at 80.5%.
When it comes to Hofstede's dimensions of national cultures, we see huge discrepancies in the areas of individualism and indulgence. India as a whole is collectivist, and they have tightly integrated relationships within the family and other in groups that highly support one another. In regards to indulgence, India practices much more restraint than the United States. They place less emphasis on leisure time and control the gratification of their desires. They believe their actions are restrained by social norms and feel that indulging themselves is simply not proper. When it comes to data from the Trumpenar dimensions of culture, India is more collective than individualist in behavior, as people believe that the group is more important than the individual. The group provides help and safety in exchange for loyalty. Regarding people's emotions, India as a whole is more effective than the United States. They open up more to people through trust and rapport. Their emotions communicate their objectives and they use a lot of body language when speaking. There is definitely an overlap between work and personal life in India, as you can see from the chart. One must be prepared to discuss business on social occasions and to have personal discussions at work. Turning down invitations to social functions can lead to offending someone in India. India is the world's largest sourcing destination for the information technology industry. India's cost competitiveness in providing IT services is 3 to 4 times cheaper than the US, continuing to be the selling point of India to countries looking to outsource their IT work. The IT industry has also created significant demand in the Indian education sector, especially for engineering and computer science. This sector is expected to contribute to 9.5% of India's gross domestic product and more than 45% in total services export in the years 2015 through 2016. In regards to the automobile industry, in a span of less than 10 years, India has increased 4 times in vehicles in production, while the United States has definitely lagged behind and decreased by 50%. The technological advances in this country and cheap labor have led to this drastic increase in production. As far as scientific research, India has become very prominent when it comes to research in the technological industries. India is among the top 10 nations in the number of scientific publications published. The country is ranked number 9 globally from their number of scientific publications published and 12th in their number of patents filed. India accounts for 67% of the US's $130 billion market. The technology industry employs about 10 million people. The technology industry has also led to an economic transformation of the country and altered the perception of India in the global economy. India's environment is known to be highly polluted and unhealthy. India's EPI ranking of 155 puts it on the lower end of the spectrum. However, the country has seen a 5.4 increase in the past 10 years. They have seen improvements in health impacts where child mortality is concerned, as well as improvements in water and sanitation pertaining to accessibility to drinking water and sanitation. However, when compared to the United States, India has a lower amount of carbon dioxide emissions per capita. Although India's carbon dioxide emissions from fuel combustion are far less than that of the United States, seen in the graph, the Environmental Performance Index ranked India as having one of the poorest relative air qualities out of the 180 countries tested, whereas the United States was ranked in the top 15%. India politics. The chief executive of the country is Pranab Mukherjee, and the vice president is Mohammed Hamid. The term of the chief executive in India typically lasts for a length of 5 years. While India is a member of the United Nations, the country has decided against becoming a member of the OECD, or Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, at present. The OECD is a forum where the government of 34 democracies with market economies work with each other. While India is non-member, they still do work with other countries in the organization in an effort to promote economic growth, prosperity, and sustainable development. India is a federal republic with a parliamentary system of government. Thus, the country is a democracy. Similar to the United States, India follows the common law legal system. Common law is based on the doctrine of judicial precedent. Therefore, the court system looks to the past court cases to determine their rulings. There are 790 members within its legislators. Of those, 11.97% of the representative government is filled by women. According to the 2016 Rule of Law Index, India's overall score lies at 0.51 and ranked 59 globally. This indicates that political corruption has a negative effect on government efficiency and economic performance. In addition, civil servants at all levels in India are known to accept bribes and engage in other corrupt behavior, usually with impunity. Under the Property Rights Index, India scores in the mid-range right at 55.5 out of 100. This index assesses the likelihood that property would be expropriated and analyzes the independence of the judiciary, the existence of corruption within the judiciary, and the ability of individuals and businesses to enforce contracts. The score of 55 indicates that India's judiciary is independent, but courts are understaffed and lack the technology necessary to clear an enormous backlog. Uncertainty about land ownership is one of the biggest problems facing the economy. We have spoken to Rao Kathapalli, who owns a hospital in India. His daughter spoke on his behalf. She often helps him manage the hospitals. Here's a snippet of what she had to say about the current political corruption in the country.
Closely with bureaucrats and politicians, I've witnessed firsthand the effects of corruption in this country. While we have seen the adverse effects that political corruption can have on government efficiency, we believe that the current bureaucrats and politicians are taking steps to guide India toward a more transparent and righteous path.
From the SWOT analysis of India, we notice that there is a high demand for domestic industrial good with low cost of labor and a steadily increasing inflow of FDI. Weaknesses in India are due to very outdated labor laws as well as poor quality infrastructures. The political structures of the country are also a roadblock to the pro-business reform movement. Though there are weaknesses in the country, there are still good business opportunities. The competition between the industries in India and the rest of the world is on the rise, leading to an influx of business. India has a large global presence regarding its exports. Lastly, there is a growing number of overseas investments in India. As far as threats to businesses in India goes, there is big competition from China, as China has become a heavyweight when it comes to manufacturing. India's large power crisis is interrupting the momentum of growth. And lastly, labor issues and working conditions also place India at a disadvantage. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch our presentation on India. Hopefully we will see you there.